I just wanted to count down in front of a camera. Yeah. That's good.
Okay. Welcome, audience and staff. Rob Stapley. I am going to share this meeting today since Scarlett's going to be excused. Today is October 27th, 2021. This is our Administrative Land Use Authority meeting. We're at 164 North Gateway Drive. In attendance is myself, Max Pierce, the city engineer, and Scarlett Bankhead, like I said, is excused. In attendance, we have Ryan Snow, our city manager, Kai Cameron, city recorder, Diane Campbell, our zoning specialist, April Frederickson, stormwater and code compliance specialist. We have 3 items on the agenda. I'll just go through the 3 different items, and as your turn, you can come up and introduce yourself, and we'll discuss your items. Item 1 is the conditional use for the retaining wall. So the City Administrative Land Use Authority will consider for approval a request by Stonegate Homes for Adam Paul for a retaining wall located at 1249 Hidden View Drive. And if you'd like to come on up and start that. You too.
We at least both sit.
Both of you.
We're nice that way.
Okay, this application was received on October 20th. Rob Stapley inspected the infrastructure on October 25th. Findings of fact, I'm assuming you guys all got the contents of the information, staff reports. Findings of fact are as listed on the staff report. Conclusions of law, number 2 spells out that this is the GIS parcel summary. Shows that this parcel is in a hazard wildfire and slope areas. In the conditions, we have the applicant submitted a geotech report dated July 29th, 2020. The retaining wall will be built 20 feet from the rear property line to accommodate leveling the lot and provide area to constructive residents. And that's stated on the application. The conditional use is for the wall only as shown on the plan dated October 20th, 2021. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated.
So did you receive a copy of the staff report? Do you have any questions related to that? So discussion related to this retaining wall. Max, you want to start that discussion? Unless you've got something out there.
Well, I went up and looked at it, but I don't necessarily see anything. I mean, it looks like you've made some changes to the site plan, or somebody has. Is that? I mean, there's some red lines drawn on there, some written text on there.
Yeah, so we changed. Well, so what was drawn on this one was the proposed new location for the retention pond. But we didn't relocate the drain box. We just relocated where it drains into. So it's still extended and it's moved. And if you went up there, Rob, I'm sure you saw
I did see.
what we've done there. So it's actually bigger than it was before. It's just longer and it's bigger, to accommodate where this new retaining wall. So I just redlined what is actually on the site now. Since that plan previously, we had intended to move the drain box and extend it all the way to that end of the property. We decided not.
So chamfer that south wall to match the parallel pipe located on that angle.
Yeah.
In the pond.
Yeah.
about the wall on the north line? It shows it pulled back away from the property line.
Yeah, the draftsman, when he drew it right on the property line, but that existing homes, the steep slope of theirs comes right down on the property line, so we scooted it away so that we don't have to touch that hill.
And it is scooted away. It's kind of deceiving when I look down the hill at it.
Yeah,
That's where that's really at.
it's hard because the footing's 9 foot wide, but the wall sits all the way on one end. So when it gets up on that upper footing, then the footing reverses, so that the buried part, right? That end, when it comes into when it returns back into the hill, we bury it both sides.
So just so I understand, is this red portion on the north there that you've got drawn in, that is retaining soil on your property or on this subject property? It's not on the neighbor's property, correct? It's
Yeah, no, they're retaining ours, but just by the nature of backfilling his property back in, as we fill all that, we're gonna soften a little bit of his slope, but not on his property, but from that wall onto his property, then we can make it so his isn't quite so steep.
And is this, I'm bringing this up because we've had this on another property, but how tall is that wall? Because there is an ordinance that says at a certain height, it's got to be.
Yeah, and Diana and I talked about it, Scarlett and I talked about it as well, that at that point where it's going back on that side, most of that will be buried on both sides. So the wall is 12 feet tall if we step up 4 feet right there, so it's 8 feet. But on the uphill side of the wall, it's going to be filled to the very top of the wall. So on the downhill side, that as it rounds that corner, the grade will gradually follow that down the wall. So there'll be some exposed as it turns that corner, but not. It'll kind of just depend on how that grading turns out right there. But the face that faces away from the property, faces west, will be 10 feet of exposed wall. That's why we're 20 feet. Well, we're 20 feet off to accommodate the retaining pond.
What about the north, the piece that's running east and west, the north side of that wall? How much is exposed on that?
So it goes back 28 feet, and most of that is buried. It'd be that very corner just as we transition that would be exposed.
How much would be?
That's the part I don't know, because it depends on
Well,
his
code has a
grade.
limitation of 4 feet. Right?
A maximum of 4 feet exposed.
If it's inside the setback.
Yeah, if it's inside the setbacks, I thought we were outside the setbacks.
You're not in the setback, you're in the property. Are you into the
That's why we
setback?
moved off of the property line.
How far from the property line are you?
I was gonna say, it doesn't, on the site plan line, it doesn't show a dimension, and that's what I was.
Yeah, that's what I,
But it's gotta be, the setback's 10 feet.
so is it 10 feet in? I guess that's the
No, it's not
question.
10 feet in, because that kind of defeats the purpose of what we need to retain on that side. But, so, I guess we could determine, the problem is determining that right now, that it depends on how that backfills on the other side. I mean, I can make sure it's backfilled. So.
Well, and I guess the thing that I'm a little confused about is if the neighbors is high, and I'm just thinking out loud here, is it possible to just forego that portion of retaining wall and just blend right into the neighbor's slope and your slope come together so there's no wall at all?
Yeah, part of that wall coming back is to act as an anchor point, since it's 10 feet tall and 60 feet long. It's anchored, it's going back into the hillside.
To support the other wall that's running.
To just give it a corner, a strong corner. But yeah, he's 25 feet above us on that side.
Well, you won't be 25 feet above the top of your finished wall, though, right?
Now we'll be 16 above it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so his property's way up high still.
Uh,
And this portion of this wall is down where, it's down at the back corner of his and his property.
So Rob, is this picture you're showing that corner right there? That's the northern corner of that wall.
I laid it out in the middle of the neighbor. I put a foot in it. I don't know exactly where the property line is. But I'm guessing it's
We're close to that 10 feet because the footing's 9 feet wide and he is not on the neighbor's property with the footing. So that, this wall is wholly contained within the Adams property. And so if because the design is that we're out at the edge of the 9 feet, so that wall is at least 8 feet.
Yeah, but in that section, are you not going on your wall will be on the north side of the footing, right? Not on the south side of the footing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It will be on that side.
I mean, that's what the part shows. That's what makes sense. That's how the walls work. I don't know. I mean, it looks like, you know, I can't tell for sure, but just looking at this photograph, if those footings are 9 feet wide, say. And so there's probably 9 to 10 feet, 8 feet, something like that of the wall that will be exposed. That's probably greater than 4 feet, that would be my guess.
Yeah, it would probably be right at that corner.
Yeah, right on the very corner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how sticky the ordinance gets that way, because you can only have 4 feet, if I'm not mistaken, right? That can be exposed when it faces the neighbor.
She was reading, I thought when she read it, only the.
Yeah, it's 4.
No, it's
not
just,
four.
it's just read, yeah.
It's inside the.
So how do you do that when you're transitioning? Because if that face can be 10, and I can only be 4 on that corner,
That's the problem.
there's no physical way to do that without another retaining.
Right.
That can't be there because then we're infringing.
Well, either that or you pull it off the property line to 10 feet.
Yeah. I mean, again, at that point, it becomes, it's not going to be doing what we needed to do to hold up that side of the house. Because the house.
Well, you would shorten the other wall if you pulled it back, right? In other words, the wall that's running north and south would be shortened. That whole corner would just pull back 10 feet.
Yeah.
Off the property. Then it would still anchor your big long wall.
Yeah, it still acts as an anchor, but then I still have the problem of a steep slope coming down from the neighbors that now I've got this 10-foot ghost zone where it's still not, we didn't solve the problem. I put it forward.
Just fill that in.
Yeah, but if I fill it in, I have nothing holding it up. You know what I mean? So if I'm filling 10 feet on one side and then that side, I fill it up to the 4 feet, then I'm still grade wise still gonna have issues.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like to me it's, if you hold strong to the ordinance, it says 4 feet exposed, that this won't work. But
I don't think you have a choice but to hold to the ordinance. Yeah, we have. I'm much more of a visual person, but if you come off the 10 feet, is the retainage pond on the same side as the retaining wall?
that picture may help to see it a little better.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's the wrong corner. So,
So does the ordinance still apply even if, I mean, the difference in all this?
So where's the
that's
retention
across
pond?
they're gonna put it on the other side of
There's no
this wall.
possible way that that's.
So this would be the retention pond over there. There's the box.
Well, if the retention pond's 10 feet wide, you can build it right next to the retention pond, right?
Right. But the problem is right here. On the north side, this corner, they're gonna turn this wall and come up, and this wall is too close to that guy's property line. And it's gonna be exposed for more than 4 feet for probably a short distance from there till it gets up against this knoll. Kind of deceiving distance from here to here. But this wall's gonna be 12 feet tall, clear up here, so this piece in this corner is going to be in violation probably.
Yeah, unless and does it have to be perpendicular? I haven't done many retaining walls. Does it have to be perpendicular or can it be angled over? I don't know that. So
The way it reads now, only 4 feet, only allows 4 feet within
Looks like
the
kind of doing a perpendicular, it wouldn't have to.
If it was retaining the neighbor's side.
Because as long as it kept the 10 feet.
Well, so what if we just make sure that there's 4 feet? That's
Is
the
the
maximum
setback-
exposed at that side when we backfill. We got to backfill both sides of the wall.
Yeah, if you're gonna backfill it that high and only have 4 feet exposed, then you should be fine, right? Or was that the other problem we're having? What's
Right.
exposed? But I mean, backfilling, then that's because we go from the grade, right? What's exposed. So
We
then,
go from what's exposed.
yeah,
Based on what's exposed, yeah, so.
So you have enough- You're coming in enough off the property line that you can have a slope that will cover 8 feet. Because you have a 12-foot wall. I don't know what that 3-to-1 slope is.
Well, we have two, so we have that wall on that side of the gate.
Okay,
Drops down. So right at the corner, it's 12 feet, but it'll be buried 10 feet from an exposed space. So that exposed space will only have 10 feet of exposed wall. So we'll have 2 feet of wall buried and then 12 inches. 15.
But that 10 feet is facing the pole.
Yeah, so the 10 feet, because it's 20 feet off the property line, it faces west. So that one's okay. But that corner where we make the transition to that wall coming back, right at the corner will be 10 feet. But I can backfill that other side so that as it slopes down, we'll return it, and then there will only be 4 feet, and I'll have that 6 feet of transition as we round the corner. We've got to build slopes for the retention pond anyway, once the wall's, because that wall, the retention pond rules, the upper hill slope will come up against the wall. So as we build that side, I can just build it up. I mean, we can grade it to whatever to make sure that there's only 4 feet exposed wall. Because the neighbor's property down there is weeds and rocks. I'm sure if I went to him and said, hey, can we make that pretty for you? And we'll make sure it's only 4 feet, then I'm sure he'd be back.
Well, so that's what I was originally asking is there even a need for that wall? I know the return to support the big long wall, but other than that,
No,
there's no
that's-
reason for a wall there. Because you could blend, assuming the neighbors let you blend into theirs.
Because the last probably 15 feet of that 28-foot wall is just getting buried 100% both sides. And then it would be just, then the inside would be buried up to the top and the other side would make the transition. So, but it's mostly just buried into the hillside. My opinion, it would be easy to make sure that we have no more than 4 feet.
Yeah, even if you have to wrap it around the west side of the other wall.
Just because we have complete control over how we contour that.
But
that's just the problem with our code, is just what's exposed.
do you have a slope? Do you have a slope requirement? I mean, if you have a exposed requirement, you have a slope requirement from that. How much of the slope can he have there?
I don't think there's a code that says.
Usually we try to do it 2-to-1 so that it's stable.
Yeah, I don't know of anything where it says you can only have.
Yeah,
The neighbor's existing property. is
That's
well
the
over
problem, lots of homes would have issues.
1-to-1.
Yeah.
But like I said, though, if the neighbor lets you slope on down, then you could actually make it flat from the wall. You could expose 4 feet of the wall and make it totally flat over the neighbor's slope, if they'll let you. Then there would be no slope from the wall to the property line or to the neighbors.
Yeah, we can't control what the neighbor allows, right?
No, I'm just saying that
No, there's
you
enough,
could do that if the neighbor allowed you to do
there's
that.
enough room that I could make on ours, make sure that there's 4 feet, even if that is a 2-to-1 slope down to his property at that very, very corner part. Because his is lower than ours at that back. Because he was, well, it was kind of hard because you'd have to have seen it before we moved all the retention pond and everything. But with the way that retention pond was built, that end of it was the high side of, because it was just basically as it pushed everything out of the way, it just pushed it up on that mountain. So it's already higher than the other walls of that retention pond where they were. And since we've now redone all of that, and now it's a more uniform grade across that retention pond. And so we could bring that soil back up. And
So one other question, maybe a couple other questions, but one, what happens? What happens if you get there, build, and find out that the situation is a little different? And I mean, I assume it's not going to be, but I'm just kind of thinking if it doesn't, and then you say, oh, well, there's not a way I can get to the 4% now, or the 4 foot now that I'm here. I just think you got to understand that risks is on you, that you've got to achieve or move the retaining wall, which is hugely expensive, right?
Or we would just have to add to the retaining wall so that back to the backside. Like I said, we can't do it and keep everything at 10 feet without building another retaining wall so that I can bring the grade up to 4 feet.
Oh, so you would have a terraced wall.
Yeah, we just have to build.
You have to
basically at the
terrace the
end-
wall.
At the north end of the retention pond, build another retaining wall that's 6 feet tall, that allows us to backfill against it on the Paul's side with it being flat on the neighbor side. So that there's only 4 feet exposed. But it can all be done if we can't make it work with just gradients around it. We can always add to that wall to do it differently later. But looking at it and having walked that property for the last 2 months, I'm pretty confident we can make that transition around that corner without more than 4 foot exposure.
So I guess that comes to you, if you pass, if you approve, then you just need to make sure that the conditions to achieve the ordinance are laid out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, I guess it's that's why when I look at the site plan, it's not clear, it's not dimensioned, and so it's a little bit up in the air, left for interpretation is my concern with it. But and I guess, maybe you want to consider chamfering it like you did the other one. It might help you, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a 45-degree wall that face the back of the face the neighbors.
Exactly.
Which one?
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And I mean, that one does, the one on the south, by the way, is drawn so that it's inside the 10-foot setback. Rear would be a question as well.
Yeah, it's well off the front lines. That blocks.
Yeah.
We didn't want to cross the retention. The pipe coming out of the existing pipe has been there, it's coming down, so we cross that.
Are we looking at this wall for steep slopes, wildfire? What's all the sensitive areas related to this?
Steep slope and wildfire.
That's
The
it?
steep slope is the GIS parcel summary friendly, but isn't just the back of the property.
It's kind
In
of
the middle of the property. We address that with the house.
Is
We already have the
Is
permit.
it about 50 feet across?
The steep slope where we're putting this retaining wall, there is no steep slope because that's where the retention pond was. So the retention pond is already level. So we're already inside of that. Not where this was, there was no steep slope, but everything above it is the steep slope that we're mitigating the building.
So all this geotech report that Civil Solutions did addressing the steep slopes that you already got your permit for to build the home.
Remember, this is the one that we got the variance for, so it's a good build on this. So
Definitely a challenging one.
Yes.
Well, is there any more discussion needed?
No, that was my concern was with the site plan.
You need them to come back. We asked the other one to come back a few times. Do you need to come back and make sure you've got the dimensions on?
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, what do you think, Rob? I mean, we're basically taking your word for that it can be done, because it doesn't, there's nothing in the plan saying it can be done, but, or it doesn't even show the dimension from the wall to the property line, that kind of thing. And I'm guessing based on that, well, of course, the photograph that Rob showed doesn't show a property line, obviously.
There's no property corner that was identified distinctly back there. There's one at the top.
So the T-post, you can see sticking out of the
Yeah,
ground.
T-post. So we use GIS information that the county had, and Dan Hogan put it into the system, and they shot it all with their GIS. So that we could keep the wall 20 feet from the property lines that were shown. They have GIS data. So we did everything we could with regards to not just
We don't have
hoping that
it,
it worked.
so there's not an actual, that T-post I see in the northwest corner isn't actually a property corner.
So that's what I based myself off, but like I said, Dan, when he's dug that wall and then shot the corners in, used the GIS information. The other side, corner of Nate Webb's house and Rob Campbell's house, this lot, there was a stake there, shot out, very shot out. So that information is all used with his GIS system. Great.
So I assume you're getting that updated as far as that pin goes, because all the county is going to need that corner in order to do all his measurements, your house and your wall.
But Paul doesn't just go off the T-post, does he? He's gonna actually have a survey line,
That's
I'm
what I said.
assuming, right?
That's it. You have to have that updated. for him. Or maybe it's buried under all that pit run for, it looks like.
Yeah, I know on the one side, Dan buried it, so he shoots all that stuff in before he doesn't work, so he knows where he's working from, he builds his model. So I can have him update the other one, but we can get, simple solutions. We shoot those on.
That's what I would think you'll need, because like you said, Paul's gonna need it, and you'll need it, be a surveyor to do it versus Dan Hogan doing it. Yeah. So what's your thoughts, Rob, on the dimensions? I mean, like say, it would be nice to have a site plan that showed where the wall's gonna be, because it looked just, it's hard to tell from the photograph, but it looks like to me that wall is gonna be quite a bit closer to the property line than what this red line shows. But don't know that for
Yeah,
sure.
hey, but then it's with that steep of a slope coming off the neighbors and coming down this way, don't take measures. So that's why I was relying on Dan Hogan, the county information.
Well, I would probably feel more comfortable. I mean, this is an expensive wall, Rob. I'd almost feel more comfortable getting the pin in than having it, because you've got your forms up. You don't want to move those. So if you had Civil Solution go out, put a pin in and shoot your forms, then you could give us a dimension of what the wall really will be for sure off from their property line.
And that is a condition of your motion. I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we continue it, that we get the dimensions shown correctly in the survey done.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that will give you some time to, make sure that you can get the grading to work too, and know where the property line is at. And if not, then maybe you consider chamfering it or something else.
Yeah, we can make it, because the other thing is it's not, because it's gonna be buried both sides, it may not have to sit out at the very edge of that foot. Maybe it'll get the engineer to allow us to just pull it back a few feet or whatever.
True. Yeah.
That helps. Then it's in the middle of the night, put it instead.
Good point.
We can address that.
Which if you can get it off 10 feet, then
That's not an issue.
it's
Yeah,
not an issue.
part of why we're trying to stay 5 feet is because it helps solve the problem between the neighbor and this property.
I just was thinking the ordinance, you clear that.
Yeah.
I understand different ones, but
There's some options. Yeah, we can give the 10 feet, we have to do that. But we can get the property corner, that property corner is down by the shore, so we can see.
That's good. I'll come take a look at the pond and the well at some point. I enjoy, we're going through actually updating a whole lot of our stormwater GIS maps right now, so we'll be in the neighborhood here in a little while anyway. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks for coming in. Next item, number 2, we have a conditional use for a new home. Consider approval of request by Brandon Major for a new home at 385 North, 900 East. So Diane, if you'd like to come read the staff report, Brandon is here.
This application came in September 30th. Rob inspected the infrastructure September 20th, and then we got the letter from Aaron, the fire inspector, on October 12th. Findings of fact are all listed in the staff report. Under conclusions of law, number 2 says the Cache County GIS parcel summary indicates this parcel is in wildfire hazard area and steep slope area. In conditions, the applicant will mitigate wildfire area by, and we have a letter from Aaron dated October 12th, and he'll do whatever Aaron has told him. The steep slope is less than 50 feet perpendicular to the contour lines, so that's not an issue. This conditional use is for the residents only as shown in the site plan, date stamped October 20th. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Province City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated.
You got a copy of that staff report? You went through it. Any questions right up to that?
I actually just went through it right before I came here, and I think I sent a more updated house plan. We didn't change anything, we just shrunk it down a little bit. But the back deck, sorry, just the back deck got shrunk down, but the only change that I noticed.
Well, shrinking your back deck won't change much in square footage or anything other than maybe slightly required low requirement, but even then you're still gonna be well over square footage on what this fire flow is gonna permit you to have without a mitigation of probably some fire sprinkler system. Looks like.
The fire marshal brought the updated plans for sure. He did his calculations.
I'll check back and forth with them. Next, you got any discussion points you'd like to?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, that, it's a little bit, and I'm looking at it right now, it's a little bit fuzzy where which lot this one is, but Rob, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last lot at the end of that cul-de-sac, right? It's the one that.
Furthest north lot.
Okay.
On the west
Way
side.
up top.
So I guess I was concerned or confused because that lot had a fair amount of earthwork done on it. And I thought that those lots, and then again, I can't read it on this final plat, but were those lots not required to have a geotechnical report done on them as a note on the final plat?
I didn't see that on the phone, but I didn't go over it with my phone, so.
There was a report done. I didn't know that it was needed. Like I have noted that, and my engineer is making my house plans based on that, but I didn't know that was the requirement.
So you say you do have a geotech report on it?
Stan gave us one that he did before we bought the lot. He had a geotechnical report, is my understanding.
Okay.
I'm new to all this, but it did have a lot of earthwork done on it, but buying a house with a view, I guess. So.
So when it comes to the geotech stuff, there's gonna
The whole thing,
there's
there's
plenty
layers.
of
He's outside.
assurances on your part,
Yeah,
your
it shows it right there.
engineers, your architects, everybody's gonna wanna make sure that you've got a good footing underneath the home. There's a lot of unknown, when it comes right down to it, that, in fact, I was just reading something on here that there was a lot of filled dirt dumped on this lot, even post subdivision. 10 or 11 feet or something, said. So there's plenty of due diligence needs to be had on making sure your footings hit native stuff or solid stuff, however the geotech report wants to handle that.
Yeah.
Really steep slopes.
So did you think the same thing, Rob, though, that required a geotech report on that lot, or? I mean, I thought that some of those with that, the extreme fill on them like that, I thought that the final plat said they had to have a geotech report prior to building permits.
I know there's a couple neighbors that have had that, and I don't know what you're referencing for our lot, but I know that several neighbors have had that and gone through that, but I didn't see that on ours.
I don't know if it's on the plat that way or not. Conditional uses for every single lot. What degree of conditional use? Slopes,
Yeah, it seemed to me though, well, again, I guess I can find it wrong, but
landslide type potential, and I'm guessing this lot has steep slopes and landslide in the sensitive areas.
the sensitive areas didn't include landslide on this one, did it?
Well, if you look at the GIS parcel summary for that particular lot, it says landslide. But if you put the layers in on top of the map where it was the subdivision, it's outside of the landslide.
Yeah, I looked at that. It did look like it was outside the landslide to me too, so.
Is it supposed to be on the plot map? Was I pulled up the plot map for?
The final plat, yeah, the final plat had a whole bunch of notes, and I thought, you know, that one doesn't.
This one's my lot, and there's obviously the all the whole subdivision, but
Right.
I don't know if this is one you need, but that's.
It doesn't have an annotation on it, so maybe it's not true. Okay.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I've just handed that over to my engineer. I don't know what it means.
What I would be curious about is all the notes. I know there was 2 or 3 pages, a little older subdivision. And different pages had different notes
Yeah,
for the plat, and so I'll be able to read all those notes. So you'll definitely want to do. make
That's,
sure
I
it's
have
also-
the plat map up, that's what I'm looking through, trying to see. Do you remember exactly where it says on it?
No, unlike Rob though, there were a whole bunch of notes, and I just had in my mind that those lots that were steep, that had a lot of fill on them, that I thought that there was a note that said lot such and such, you know, named the lots, had to have a geotech report prior to building permit.
Looking at Cache County parcel viewer. Which one is?
That's what I'm not a huge fan of when it comes to cash county parcel. Some of these scanned recorded documents don't show all the notes that are on the final plat. I don't know how you get to some of that.
Yeah,
Without
well, you have to
going
get
in
the,
there.
yeah, you have to get the actual plat and you're right, it doesn't, this is kind of a
And it shows
scaled
the,
back version of what
Yeah,
the
it
plat
shows
actually
the-
looks like.
the meat and the potatoes, but they don't show the notes that were all over the sides of that plat.
Yeah.
I think I just read through that whole thing and I didn't see anything about geotechnical report on any of the properties and clearly there's been work on there, so.
So you were able to find something that shows all the notes on the sides.
Yeah, the plat he's got on his phone is the actual recorded plat.
Yeah.
And it's on, there's stuff on a couple of them, on a couple of the pages, and I don't see anything either when I just try and skim through it. It just mainly talks about making sure the minimum improvements are done.
So it's about setbacks and driveway placement, like that, but.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're aware that there's a
Yeah.
significant amount of fill that's been placed on that lot and earthwork been done on it, some fill, I don't know exactly how much, but it's definitely had quite a bit of disturbance there.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I guess we'll go over the fire marshals. That's a little bit, yeah. On record, I think you had plenty of discussion with him already.
Yeah, I, based on the kind of house I'm building, I thought that it didn't need to have a fire sprinkler, so we had a little bit of back and forth, and so maybe missed the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was like 3 hours short of making the last meeting at this point, but yeah, we're just gonna go with fire sprinkler. Sounds like it's appropriate, given our house, and I don't want to do anything that's not, you know, if we need it, I'll do it. So happy to put it in there.
So the fire marshal has provided a detailed report related to access and fire hydrant locations and the number of hydrants. Some conditions for you. So as long as you've met those conditions, it's approved. We've got a good copy of this report.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information related to flow rates and pressures in the area and the different fire hydrants.
I was actually really excited to get that because I was trying to figure it out on the fly. So, it was a lot easier to have him just hand that to me.
We've done
So I was trying to figure out how to get that to, you know, like I need to get it to the fire map maker, fire sprinkler map maker. So I was happy to see those. So good.
So the building appears to be about 5,618 square feet in size.
Yeah, there's a lot of garage space on there. I think it's a little.
As far as this fire stuff goes.
Oh,
it
yeah, yeah.
requires all of that
Yes.
to be included, I believe,
Yep.
for fire flows.
Yeah.
Um,
On the final, because the deck got shrunk, it was a little less than that, but yeah.
So you'll be required to hit 2,000 GPM gallons per minute at 20 PSI. A couple of different fire hydrants that we've done a lot of tests on in that area, which are not quite meeting that number. Hence the need for this fire suppression system.
So, preference of that.
Plans for the sprinkler system can be a delayed submittal, shall be reviewed by an approved third-party reviewer. That's fire system specialist.
Yeah.
Take care of that. So have to conform to all these other classifications he's got for the urban interface code. So roof coverings,
Yeah.
closed, unenclosed, underfloor protection, buildings, structures, attic ventilation openings, soffit codes, rules you'll have to follow.
Yeah. I mean, they're not specified. I was planning on doing basically all those anyway. I mean, who doesn't put soffit on their house, so.
Mine doesn't have it. I wish it had, but my house is quite a bit older. There's a bunch of recommendations here. Construct roof with fire resistant materials like tile, metal, asphalt, fiberglass shingles, clean roofs, surfaces, and gutters, and pine needles. Clean branches, etc. regularly to avoid accumulation of flammable materials.
Wish I had big enough trees on my lot to get on my road.
Well, someday you might.
One day.
Cover your vents with wire mesh no larger than 1/8 inch. Keep sparks from your into your home through those vents. There. So other than fire and steep slopes, which we talked about, are we need more of this? Any other discussions?
Nothing else for me.
Either, so I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve. Let me get to the top of this thing. Oh, boy. I make a motion, we approve the conditional use for the new home located at 385 North, 900 East for Brandon Majors.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It has been approved, so thank you very much for coming in.
I'll email you when it's all in.
You can be happy about it.
Yeah, I'm doing happy, yes.
I'm very happy about them. I'm just gonna come
Okay, last item on our agenda is a new home. We'll consider approval for a request by Construction for Kurt and Catherine Sorensen for a new home at 445 South Edge Hill Drive. And can start with staff report.
The application came in September 28th. This item was on a previous agenda and it was continued. So this is their second time. Rob Stapley inspected the infrastructure on September 29th, and Aaron Walker reviewed this, and we have a letter dated October 7th. Findings of fact are all listed on the staff report. Conclusions of law, the GIS parcel summary indicates this parcel is in a hazard wildfire and steep slope area. Conditions, the applicant will mitigate hazard areas by conforming to whatever the fire inspector said, and we have a letter dated October 7th from him. Mitigation strategies, we have a statement that was submitted with the application on September 28th, dated September 28th. Conditional uses for the residents only as shown on the updated site plan, date stamp October 25th. And as far as the slope goes, the is outside of the build area, so it won't be disturbed. On the very back of the property. Correct? Okay. Approval by the city of any submitted application or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from the responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. While the city's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated.
Okay, so this is a continued one. We've been here before. We had some things we wanted to figure out or bring to us.
Yeah, we want to talk about I need to put on where the driveway is going, the first circle driveway. So I put that on the plot plan. And then to discuss the sewer going off the back of the property down to
First.
east. Correct.
And so, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that all the houses are, each one's individually, they go down in different places. I've actually walked, I can see their cleanouts. You can see it actually driving up to First East. And so I propose that we can go down, the homeowners on the property below, the two lots below, or if we could just go down between the two lots, since they own both. But have them write an easement, you know, in case they ever sell it. That was
Were you planning on doing a circle driveway beforehand?
We were, it was kind of up in the air, and then the way the lot is kind of, the way the house is set, and everything comes in, they decide to do a circle driveway.
2 20-foot.
And there's one already made, there's already one in the curb, and it's on the east north end, like right by that 6-foot mark. And when they come in, they like to come in and where the house is set, you know, not drive all the way up and circle. As they come in from the south to the north. That makes sense. I'm not an artist, so yeah, I think it's quite a circle. I'm more smart than you.
Aaron Walker's report, not having put in fire suppression system. Requirements of flow. We talked about all this last time, but quick re-review here. Anything else you want to discuss or add to the discussion on what he's doing or learned with sewer?
No, I think I would assume that you'll stay on one lot or the other. That way you don't have to put an easement on both lots.
Yes, so I was actually, what we talked to the homeowners about is going like, 10 feet off the property line on one of the lots. So if they ever sell a lot and somebody puts a fence in, or there's any kind of, that needs to be done on that fence line, they're not on top of a.
Right, that way you don't have to impact both lots with an easement as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if somebody does retaining walls, or like we talked about earlier, with the next guy, it won't affect anything in the future.
So at what point do we need to require that, or do we verify that that easement gets recorded, Diane, or how do we gotta go about that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I personally, I don't know who to contact to get an easement. I don't know if it's through you guys that say do it, or we record it when we do it, or.
I would think you would probably just want to go to a title company. They could get an easement recorded for you. Once you decide which lot you're putting it on and stuff, but. Fine, do you know, is it something that we follow up with later, or, we can certainly make it a contingent, or a condition as of our approval.
I think if you make it as a condition, he just has to bring in a form that would show from the title company that they've recorded, and they would say, hey, here, I've recorded this. And once they record it, then we would release the zoning clearance at that point. So I would you're not the owner, you're the builder. As you say, you're the owner, I think it would be interesting to connect the walking trail that is there to the road. And if that's over top of the sewer line and we need an access for our clean out truck, but I'm not sure we would be cleaning this portion. Anyway, I was just thinking of kind of other planning and pieces of the puzzle, so.
Looks like there's sewer pulling up on the south property line. I'm optimistic that our trail continues at some point to get down to First East. And a lot easier, less slope.
To the farther to the north.
Side or property to the north. Um,
Anyway, but it's over the top of the sewer line and they already have to have an easement on top of the sewer line. At least we have a link. We always change it later, but just a thought.
If you're worried about digging it up or something, is that what you're gonna do or something?
It's just minimizing the amount of impact to the parcel based on easements.
Right.
That way you don't have easements, maybe 20-foot easement on both sides of the property line, makes it hard to do structures a little bit. Combine those easement desires and stuff.
Thanks.
Anything else?
There's nothing else I got, unless you do.
I don't.
I'll make a motion, we approve the application for Timser Construction, Curtin, Catherine Sorensen, located at 445 South Edge Hill Drive, with the conditions and conclusions of law as shown on the application, and with the additional condition that a sewer easement will be recorded on either lot 1 or 2 for the sewer lateral coming off this lot.
I'll second that motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So with that condition, you're approved.
Bernie's as excited as the last guy.
Yes, it was probably not your house, so.
I don't dance.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for everybody. Thanks to everybody for coming. And
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.